Hello, fellow dreamers, and welcome to a bedtime story with Sleepytime Sam. This is the story of Alec and the Whimsical Gnome. I do hope you enjoy it. Once upon a time, in a quiet village nestled between the hills and the woods, there lived a kind and thoughtful man named Alec. He wasn't particularly loud or flashy, but he kept his little cottage neat, made his own tea every morning, and always waved to the birds as they chirped on his windowsill. Alec lived a peaceful life. Some might have called it too quiet, but not Alec. He liked things just the way they were. That is, until the gnome showed up. Now, Alec didn't know it at first. You see, gnomes are clever and quick and have a special talent for not being seen when they don't want to be. But they're also, quite often, very curious creatures. And this particular gnome, whose name was Mimple, had taken quite an interest in Alec's calm little world. It all started with a sock. One morning, Alec went to put on his favorite green socks, only to find that one had been replaced with a tiny hand-knit sock made entirely out of moss. He held it up and squinted. He said aloud. Strange, but kind of impressive. He shrugged and wore mismatched socks that day. The next week, Alec noticed that his kitchen had been tidied in the night. His tea bags were organized by flavor and placed in a rainbow pattern. The sugar bowl had been refilled with what appeared to be sparkly sugar. And the note left beside it, written in flowery looping letters, simply read, "Sweet dreams need sweet tea." Alec smiled, a little puzzled, but deeply amused. After that, things began to happen more frequently. One day he reached for the soap in the shower and found it had been replaced by a perfectly carved bar shaped like a smiling squirrel. Another time he opened the pantry to find all his cereal boxes stacked into the shape of a castle. There was even a little flag made out of a toothpick on top. But not all the surprises were helpful. Once, all of Alec's spoons had been gently bent upward at the tips. They were still usable, but each bite of soup came with a splash. Another time, he found his boots mysteriously filled with popcorn. It was always just enough to make him chuckle, but never enough to make him angry. Still, Alec began to wonder if he was losing his marbles. So one evening, he decided to set a gentle little trap. Not a mean one, just something to help him catch whoever and whatever was happening. He set out a saucer of tea, 2 sugar cookies, and a note that read, "To the mysterious spirit of tidiness and chaos, let's talk." Then he turned out the lights, tiptoed into the hallway, and waited. At precisely 12:07 a.m., he heard a tiny sneeze. Alec peered around the corner and saw a flash of red. A little figure, no taller than a teacup, was balancing on the table. He had a fuzzy little beard, a little red cap, and suspenders made of green. The gnome froze. Alec blinked. "Oh," he said softly, "you're real." The gnome sniffled and tilted his head. "You left cookies. That's suspiciously friendly." Alec said, "I figured whoever was making squirrel soap and popcorn boots probably wasn't dangerous." The gnome shuffled and looked down at his feet. "I didn't mean to startle you. I just wanted to be noticed. But I'm shy, so I pranked." "A little." Alec sat down slowly, careful not to startle the little visitor. "And you tidied too?" "I'm a proud gnome. We prank with honor," the gnome said, puffing up a bit. "But we clean up after ourselves. My name's Mimple." "Alec," said Alec, offering a pinky finger to shake. Mimple shook it solemnly. And from that night forward, things were different. Alec and Mimple became unlikely but inseparable friends. Every morning, Alec would leave out a tiny thimble of tea, and every night, Mimple would leave behind a surprise. Sometimes a bouquet of dandelions in the shape of a duck, sometimes a poem written entirely in macaroni letters, and sometimes, yes, a new prank. Once, Alec woke up to find a strange new gift, a painting of a hot dog. But right beside the door, Mimple had left a note that read, "Behind this bun a secret lies, of sizzling truths and ketchup skies. If you can find the mustard's mark, you'll gain the wisdom of the park. But start not now, just hang it high, and nod once when the glizzies fly." Alec laughed for a solid 5 minutes. In return, Alec started playing his own little pranks. He put Mimple's mushroom cap in the freezer. He switched Mimple's thimble of tea with lemon juice once. Mimple made a face that could curdle milk. But Mimple loved it. He called it prank ping pong, and it became their nightly ritual. More importantly, Alec was no longer quite so quiet. He talked to the birds more. He hummed to himself as he swept the floor. He even joined the village garden club, much to the delight of a lady named Miss Applewhistle, who'd always wanted someone to discuss compost ratios with. Mimple, though still unseen by everyone else, was the reason. The little gnome had brought just the right amount of chaos into Alec's tidy world, and Alec had made the gnome feel seen. One afternoon, as they sat under the cloudy sky in Alec's garden, Alec sipping his tea, Mimple lounging in the grass, Alec asked, "Why me? Why did you choose my house?" Mimple looked thoughtful for a moment. "Because," he said, "you are kind and quiet, and you look like you needed a bit of mischief in your life. And I needed someone who'd notice me, even if I had to replace your socks to make it happen." Alec smiled. "Well," he said, "I notice you now." And from then on, the house at the edge of the village was never just tidy or just chaotic. It was perfectly balanced, thanks to one good man and one mischievous, marvelous little gnome. The end.